Hello traders, welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 239. Iliya here. You know what we're going to be doing in this video, having a look at the markets, how they developed this week, what kind of opportunities we had, and most importantly, what we can expect for the upcoming week. Now, this week I did not trade at all. The market was quite choppy, awaiting for the Fed's interest rate decision, in which we had some interesting developments that I'm going to talk about. And then, of course, we had NFP on Friday, which, of course, made, for example, Thursday slightly bit choppy. So I pretty much skipped this week in order to sacrifice 1 week of price action in order to get clarity over the rest of the month. So in this video, we're going to explore how the market played out within the first week of May, try to potentially draw some forecasts and see where that will take us. So let's get into it. I always start my week by having a look at the economic calendar to potentially frame the trading week, know which days I'm going to be skipping and which days I'm going to be really focused on. And I also pretty much do the same for the whole month. So if we have a look at the upcoming week, we're having bank holidays on Monday and the Swiss franc news. So nothing for the USD, nothing for the euro. So of course, if you want to trade JPY or GBP, definitely not. Nothing else. So Monday for me is an absolute skip. Tuesday, we have Aussie cash rate, so interest rate decision for Royal Bank of Australia. And if you're trading the Aussie, right, so that could be a good time to be trading after that news, followed by the press conference as well. So the Aussie could get volatile on Tuesday. And then, of course, we don't have also any USD news. No Euro news, no USD news. All right, on Wednesday, we have bank holiday for the Euro. US session, this one is a medium impact, so nothing volatile, nothing apart from that. Thursday, bank holidays overall for the Eurozone. And then we have monetary policy statement from Bank of England. So again, if you're trading the pound, then the GBP will pretty much be awaiting this news release in order to then potentially see where it wants to go. And then luckily on that day, we also have some USD news that are potentially going to bring in some volume on the USD pairs as well. And then on Friday, we followed that interest rate decision for the pound with pound GDP. And then we also have consumer sentiment for the US dollar. So just by looking at this week, I can already potentially forecast that Thursday and Friday are going to be the big movers. So with that information, I'm going to be skipping Monday. I'm going to be observing Tuesday and Wednesday. But again, Tuesday only Aussie news, nothing for the US dollar, nothing for the euro. Pretty much the pairs that I mainly trade is Euro USD. And looking at the DXY and also a little bit of GU. So GU could be interesting, but I'm not going to trade GU all the way until this. So pretty much the first half of the week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, pretty much a very big percentage of the week is, I would say, skippable. You are going to be getting some little moves and some little trades, but they're very likely going to be very small, so very slow, very choppy, and very small. So again, still make your decision how you want to frame your trading week. Personally, my main focus will be on Thursday's US session and then Friday, the full day. And then, of course, if I just quickly take a look at next week, what we have is US CPI, which is one of the most expected and pretty much volatile news releases nowadays. All right. So we know that this week is potentially going to set up for next week. And then when next week's CPI and PPI and everything is over, then the next 2 weeks are going to be probably very incredible. So that is when I'm going to be zoned in. All right. With that being said, let's jump into the technicals. All right, as always, starting with the dollar, pretty much the big king of all the majors. Let's see what is happening. Now, the brand new month already opened and it's already making a pretty significant move lower. Again, you can see the whole month of April, we made this push up of 250 pips, and just for 2 or even, I think 2 days of the brand new month, we're having 200 pips. Right, so it could turn out to be a very volatile month, and I do expect for it to be so because so far this year hasn't been extremely trending, hasn't been extremely volatile. So of course, let's see what is going to happen. Now, when it comes to this bearish monthly imbalance, the market failed to follow through from here, and we popped higher to potentially guide us potentially into that monthly high, which has been overall my very big kind of macro bias. But right now we're having this very nice drop. We're failing to actually expand higher towards this monthly. All right, so I always stay with an open mind. So right now, if I start seeing potentially the weekly and the daily starting to fail, then guess what? I'm just going to flip the script. Why? This week we had the Federal Reserve's interest rate decision. They are keeping the rates the same. All right. So if they keep the rates the same, that is usually going negative for the currency. However, what they also indicated is that they're going to be keeping the rates the same and that they're not going to be cutting them all the way until the second half of the year, because inflation is still not yet being tamed. It's still pretty high. So they think that it's too early to be cutting rates. So this kind of the combination of this sort of information, of course, if you look at the overall investor sentiment, it looks like they're perceiving it bearish. And I do agree. Again, rate cuts, a confirmation of a rate cut is already bearish. And of course, not hiking the rates, of course, is also bearish. So that is giving us that shift of sentiment for the DXY. And you can already see it within the technicals. We had this weekly imbalance that, according to me, should have been the reason for price to potentially push higher and to take out, first of all, that weekly high, which was pretty much my overall bias starting into the week that passed. We came super close, but we did not take it, and we just massively dropped right now. Now, what are we doing currently is we're tapping into this OB, this order block, this last sell, and then we had a big buy with an imbalance. That is usually the specification of an order block, of a demand zone. So that probably right now is our second barrier. So if the market did not respond from that weekly imbalance, it could definitely respond from that weekly OB, right? So I'm going to be looking to see how it actually responds from that. But I'm already seeing some bearish signs. Now, then we drop to the daily time frame, and if you have a look at the daily, like, it was quite choppy in all honesty. I failed to get a clear bias throughout this week, so I pretty much decided not to trade. Because if you try to trade within these kind of moves here, within this kind of consolidation, it's not clear and you're very likely going to be swept in and out. Like, for example, Monday started bearish, Tuesday went bullish, then Wednesday failed to take out that high and went bearish. And then pretty much the main trading days were Thursday and Friday. But again, Thursday was the day before NFP. The market ended up moving very late during the day, and I was looking during the morning, but nothing provided. And then on Friday, pretty much we had the NFP. Now, if you have a look to the left, we have this very strong daily imbalance that was not retested. So that can potentially provide the market with a very nice reaction. But on the way lower, we're also printing that daily bearish imbalance, which also suggests momentum going lower. Combine this with this sort of buy to sell here. You could call that an OB. You could hold this an overall area to be retested. I would expect potentially for a market to pull back here and to show me what it wants to do. So I'm not necessarily bearish yet on the DXY. What I essentially want to see is even for the weekly time frame to start to really show me that this weekly imbalance is definitely going to fail, and for us to start dropping lower. Because if we start dropping lower, then of course we have a lot of targets to be looking for. Okay, so let's see. Daily time frame right now is showing us first signs of bearishness, and on the hourly time frame it was rather tricky. Like here we had bullish imbalance, bearish imbalance, disrespected, then bullish, then this bullish here. It actually held, trying to take out that weekly high. We did not, which is extremely strange. And then we dropped lower, a little bit of a pullback into nothing. And then we had the flush here on Thursday, quite late during the day. We had this flush, and right now we're just continuing going lower. If you have a look at the very, very recent hourly price action, we have this hourly imbalance. So again, on Monday, I am not going to be trading. So I'm just going to let the daily candle pass, see what is going on. Potentially we can come in, react from this one, try to push, but maybe fail. And then it could take us into that daily zone from where we can potentially be looking for the short. All right. So not entirely extremely clear. I am starting to look a little slightly bit more bearishly, although again, I'm always keeping an open mind, right? Every single day I jump in, what's the bias, what makes sense to be traded today, and that is what I trade. So for this week, I would love to see something like that, a pullback into that daily imbalance that overall overlaps with this whole area that is to be retested, and then potentially to see a move lower. However, do we have the news and do we have the volatility for this week to actually push lower on the dollar? Not really. So staying very skeptical, staying very open-minded, and also staying very patient, and also waiting for the right time to strike, which I could say from now on, it's already gonna be next week. Not this upcoming week, but the week after this week. All right. So overall bearish overall outlook on the DXY. Let's see how that overlaps with the rest of the currencies. All right, next on the list is Euro USD, which is usually quite the opposite to the DXY. Now, of course, here we also had that failed monthly bullish imbalance. The market tapped in, it tried to push, it failed, which to me is a no follow through pattern. So it failed to follow through to take out that high. So then usually automatically I say that this overall range higher is weak and we could potentially be taking out this monthly liquidity low. Now, what we see is happening is that the market tried to push on April. It looked quite bearish. It definitely looks like May potentially wants to continue going lower. But right now, what we're also doing is we are invalidating a potential monthly bearish imbalance. We already started the first week of May with a very nice pop higher. Now, usually the first weeks, as you have like that overall AMD pattern, accumulation, manipulation, distribution, right? The first day usually of the week, the first hours of the day, and even the first weeks of the month are going to start with a consolidation, and then we have a manipulation, and then the true move happens. So is this bullish move on the first week right now manipulation in order to later go down, or is it actually setting up for the overall direction of the whole month? Again, these are all things we cannot really know, and we just have to be waiting for the market to show us more and more signs, because the more you wait, the clearer it will become where the market is potentially going. Now, what I again don't like about it is that we had this weekly imbalance, bearish. We have also this OB, if you want to call it, this last buy candle. Then we had a sell-off. That's quite good. And the market tapped in here last week. It rejected very nicely. So this week I did expect for the market to potentially start going lower and to be taking out this weekly low. But no, it did not. It pushed up higher, closed bullish, and actually closed above with a body close above the previous weekly high, which to me suggests more bullishness. It suggests a break and not a liquidity grab, not a sweep. All right, so that is again starting to give me more bullish signs on the weekly. And then we dropped to the daily, and honestly, there were some setups to be taken. I had my community members taking some setups. There were definitely some wins. There were also some losses for the people that didn't truly wait for the news to be out. But you can again see like Monday up, Tuesday down, this up, then Thursday up, and then Friday actually made the overall that bullishness for the week. Now we don't have anything to work with on the daily, and I don't have a lot of information here to work with. Now, of course, to the left here, we have this not retested daily zone, right? And we can, of course, pair this one with this big buy to sell as well. So that is giving the market a lot of reaction. Right now, you can already see the wick. The market is reacting from that level. So again, my question is, are we going to start following through higher, right? Or are we still going to go lower with my overall monthly bearish bias in this case? That is the biggest question, to which we don't have much clues yet. Now, unlike the DXY, on which we have a daily bearish imbalance to work with, on EU we do not. We do not have this. So again, I'm going to be waiting for Monday to close, and I would potentially want to see for the market to not tap this level, because if it does tap this first candle's high here, then it's going to invalidate the new bullish imbalance from holding, which is also going to be another bearish sign. Okay, so currently, of course, we can see that push. If you also think in terms of structure, it is still bearish, and we're just again pulling back above the 50%, but I don't use this no more because it does not signify to me the most recent order flow and the most recent liquidity. You can see we pull back into 50%. There are everybody shorts here, but the market comes back up again. Why? Because it probably wants to reach into another premium level to potentially gain more liquidity and then get short, or it's simply reversing, which is what I have spotted throughout a lot of data and a lot of going through losses and taking losses as well, that not always that 50% is going to work out. What really depends is the narrative and also the overall order flow that I currently spot mainly with imbalance areas. Right now, you can see here EU chopped around, pushed down, then pushed back up. It started printing some bullish signs. We had this forward imbalance that I look to trade long from, but it started getting the long quite late. Like at 17 o'clock, I usually stop trading, and that is when it started moving. All right. And then, for example, on the next day on NFP, we're having some bullishness. This was a very small forward bullish imbalance right here, and the market ended up popping higher very nicely. And currently, the only zone that we can work with is this forward bullish imbalance. So honestly, coming into next week, and especially into the beginning of next week, with the bank holidays as well, and with the choppy Monday session, and with the lack of news for the US dollar, I do believe it's not going to be an incredible trading week for the US dollar, and of course for all the major pairs that we're going to be covering. All right. But of course, I'm gonna say I'm seeing a little bit more bullish signs, but I can definitely see, for example, this one failing and first starting to also go lower, because I don't have a lot of hard time frame confirmations right now on EU that it actually wants to go higher. I still see like it's tapping into a lot of resistance areas to the left, a lot of old zones that were untapped, right? And we're just tapping them right now. So again, I'm just simply waiting. Let's see if this follow zone is going to get tapped. Let's see if we're going to be getting a respect from that zone. Then we can be targeting that high. And if not, of course, I'm going to be adapting and flowing with whatever happens. So Euro USD, not entirely clear. I'm more kind of towards the bullish side, but still need some more confirmation. Similar to EU, GU is also a little bit hard to read. We, of course, first swept this candle, this monthly swing high, rejected very nicely. Then this drove us into that monthly unretested monthly imbalance. And you can see how April closed. It closed with a very nice wick at the bottom, which again signifies that there was a lot of rejection happening from that monthly zone. And then this month starts trying to push up, but again, it's way too early still to judge the month. Now again here, similar to EU, for example, we had this weekly imbalance that the market tapped in, but again, we're tapping into a monthly zone and we're having a weekly zone, which is usually going to form, well, of course, the higher time frame one. And again, we tapped into that weekly, we gave a little bit of a wick, and this week we're again pushed even deeper into the zone where we have, for example, this last buy to sell. So that is pretty much the last barrier right now for the market to go down. If I see next week already starting to pop higher and to give me bullish order flow, I can potentially presume that this monthly zone could potentially hold, and then we might start getting that high. All right, because the only thing right now to stop price and the only thing to push GU lower is pretty much this area right now. This OB, this supply zone, whatever you like to call it, right? That is currently the only barrier for price to potentially push it lower. So again, it's going to be extremely key to observe what is happening. You can see that weekly zone so far, not really holding. It came in, reacted, then bullish, then bearish, then bullish, then chop. And then on Friday, we really nicely punched into this area. Similar to Euro USD, we're having that last daily imbalance that was not tapped together with this overall, again, last buy to sell on the daily. So again, this is to me the last resort for the market to go bearish. And if we start building bullish order flow into that daily zone right now, because we had a very violent rejection on Friday, if you have a look at it, right? So right now, if we start actually trending lower on the hourly, on the hourly, then I could potentially say that we might be going bearish. But if we start trending higher, then I could say, all right, we took out the reaction right now of this daily zone. And if we continue with the bullish order flow that we actually have so far, then I could say we could be shifting bullish. Then I'm going to be targeting that high and potentially even going higher, based also with a very big confidence that we came from that monthly zone. Right, we came in, we consolidated, massive in, massive out. That's a beautiful V shape here to signify a reversal in the market. And right now we're kind of starting to try to go higher, but encountering all of these areas of struggle, right? So first that weekly, right now this daily, then this overall OB to the left. It's a lot of kind of resistance that the market has to take. So currently in terms of the hourly time frame, I don't like it. We came in, we came out massively from that daily zone. Like if you have a look here, we had that very tiny hourly imbalance that the market pinked and followed through into that daily zone. And right now this one is taken. We only have that little tiny one, which I'm not necessarily want to take because it's quite low. It doesn't make a lot of sense for the market to make such a massive pullback into that low and then to potentially go higher. Of course, we do have this overall sell to buy here to potentially hold price. But again, exactly the same thing that I said with EU. We don't have clear signs even yet, right? The first week was over. The first week was quite tricky to trade. Second week is coming in, right? And you know that the market will be awaiting the third week because that's when we have the US CPI. So again, I'm just going to say wait for Monday to pass. And even for the pound, don't forget, Thursday, you have interest rate decision for the pound. So GBP USD is going to be tricking you into trades for the whole week. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is going to trick you into trades until then the news release comes out. That is when the manipulation and the true move is going to happen. So then pretty much only after this you would actually like to touch it. So again, I act as a professional. I'm not going to jump into random trades. I don't want to be trading every day. I want to be trading on the days and on the times during that market when it's actually clear and when it makes sense. All right. So that's GBP USD. I have absolutely no shame to admit that I have no idea what is going to happen, right? And that simply means that I'm gonna wait. I was talking to the Fanatic team the other way, and we were looking at pairs like Aussie dollar and NZD dollar, right? So oftentimes you're gonna get a clue about what is going to be happening overall in the dollar and also ENG by also looking at some of the other USD pairs. Because again, you know, the DXY is a basket of all like major pairs. For example, I think the Aussie and the NZD are not included or are either not a very big portion of the DXY. But if we have a look at Aussie dollar right now, it is starting to give us bullish signs. And then as I started to see these bullish signs on NU and AU, I started looking for EU and GU bullishness as well. Although again, that is not entirely sure yet. But if we explore right now Aussie dollar, for example, last month didn't do much. It took out that overall low, it took out the previous monthly low, it took out this monthly swing low here. It failed to massively push lower, it failed to massively push higher. But right now already 2 days or 3 days, so we opened on Wednesday, 1st of May, so we have Thursday and Friday, so 3 days into the month, and we have already moved a lot more than what we moved last month. So are we going to go bullish? Well, let's see. The market is currently going to be responding from that previous monthly high, which is going to be a very major swing point in the market, which is, again, you can see it's a massive weekly point as well. What we also spotted on AU and NU is that they did not have a weekly bearish imbalance. And if you don't have an imbalance, that again suggests lack of momentum. So we didn't have anything lower, but right now we don't have anything higher as well. So this one is a rather choppy pair. Like we were chopping around a lot, push down, right now pushing up. So still, we're not getting that clear market intention. And that has been the year so far. I mean, we had a couple of periods in which it was extremely clear. It was very nice. But a lot of the times it's just choppy and you just wonder what it's doing, right? Now, AU, it pretty much failed everything that we had to the downside. So if you have a look at it, this precise situation right here is exactly what EU and GU are encountering right now. This old unretested daily imbalance, if I just quickly go to show you, on EU, there is that thing, that old daily unretested imbalance, and also on GU, this old daily unretested imbalance. AU has already retested it, has already reacted, and that reaction took us into this bullish daily imbalance. Then on the next day, on Wednesday, we failed to create a new daily bearish imbalance from this one. So that is a sign of a no follow through, what I call NFT, no follow through, right? And then we actually started following through from that daily bullish, creating also another daily bullish. So to me right now, the order flow on AU is simply bullish. Now, the bad thing is that we took out the liquidity. We took out our liquidity objectives. Right now, if the market has taken liquidity, it will very likely pull back to rebalance, to gain some more liquidity, and then to potentially seek another liquidity point. Okay? So my main kind of area to work with right now is going to be this daily imbalance. But is the market going to pull back all the way down? Of course, we have to see the forward time frame if it has something. And yes, it does. It has this 4-hourly zone. We have news for the Aussie. Tuesday, interest rate decision for the Aussie. This could be a focus pair potentially for next week. Because we have news for the Aussie, we have overall clear price action on the Aussie. So what I want to be observing right now, if this bullishness is going to follow through. And if that bullishness follows through, that could potentially also give me a sign that EU and GU might eventually go bullish as well. So I'm either going to be looking to see how the market is going to respond from that 4-hourly zone, but I would much prefer to have a higher time frame tap inside this daily zone. And then from there, for example, start looking for shifts and start targeting this high here. So that's AU. That's AU. I'm overall bullish on AU. We have taken liquidity. So right now I'm looking for a pullback either into this 4-hourly zone. If this 4-hourly zone fails, that means the market is going to be driven into this daily zone. We very nicely have also this very nice sell to buy to potentially act as another confluence, which is very close also to that daily bullish imbalance. So this is essentially the setup that I'm gonna be looking for into next week. Of course, let's see if it plays out, but it probably looks the best setup that we have covered so far. Let's have a quick look at NU as well. Now we have been sliding down, but you see we're just sliding down. There is not a massive impulse lower. There is no imbalances going lower on the monthly. We closed last month. This month it's going a little bit bullish. So once again, this could be two things. It's either the initial manipulation higher in order to go down, or it's a reversal. Do we know? No. All right, so we just have to wait and we have to listen to the market signs. If I'm just getting really deep to be reading this, we're having this weekly bearish imbalance on the weekly. Very nice. We tapped in. We very nicely went lower, right? But what we did fail to do is we failed to make a new weekly bearish imbalance to potentially signify that weekly trend is going to continue. And right now you can see the market is starting to pop higher this week, right? So which suggests that potentially this will be my liquidity target, because that is a failed swing. That is a failed order flow range going lower because it did not have an imbalance and it did not really follow through to show us that it wants to continue going lower. So that could potentially be my drawn liquidity, right? Already building those bullish signs. Now, this one was extremely choppy, right? Chop, 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 chop until the news. Monday push, Tuesday massive flush. And then we started climbing. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we climbed all the way back up into what we have on the rest of the pairs, into that area of struggle right there where the market could potentially react. So we have this daily bullish imbalance to potentially indicate that the current overall, it's not order flow yet, because even order flow gets confirmed by a push, a pullback, and then a push to follow through and make a new imbalance, right? So right now we just have one. I'm looking for another one. Now it could form also on Monday. I delete these things, it could form on Monday. If we wait for Monday's candle to close, if it does not cross this level, that is going to be incredible. So we're going to be having another daily bullish imbalance and then tap into this on Tuesday and Wednesday to potentially drive us higher. So looking at AU and NU, they look quite bullish and they could potentially be the only pairs that we can be looking for. I forgot to mention that AU as well could form a brand new daily imbalance if it does not cross this line here. This is what I call an invalidation level. Right, if it does not cross it, then of course we're going to be good. Same for NZUSD. Right now on the 40 time frame, of course, we have this imbalance to potentially hold price. It could definitely reverse from here, but based on news and based on the overall volatility, I don't think it's going to tap and just massively reverse. I do think it could tap, it could consolidate, and then it could tap into a daily zone if it's created, and then to potentially start making the move. So we don't have clear kind of thresholds to be trading from yet in terms of going longs. So I'm going to be waiting on Monday, even waiting a little bit on Tuesday, and then to potentially judge what is going to be happening. And I'm also going to be updating you on Wednesday. All right, let's have a look at gold. Now, the first thing I see is this very nice, lovely, massive monthly imbalance that again suggests that the market is overall going bullish right now. And of course, that also gives us another sign that the market could potentially want to pull back to retest and to rebalance this monthly bullish imbalance. So that can both act as our bias, as our drawn liquidity, but also it could act as the sign that shows us that overall gold is bullish. But just because, again, there is a difference between direction and bias, right? So my direction right now is bullish, but my bias could be bearish to be getting inside this monthly zone, all right? Just to make this clear. Now, let's see if there is something on the lower time frame to potentially stop price from reaching that monthly imbalance, and that could be this weekly zone here. But as you can see, this weekly zone got tapped last week. And then this week, instead of continuing higher, it came back down again. But also we have another sign that the market is actually taking the liquidity below the previous weekly low and not really massively breaking it. So going into next week, it's going to be extremely key to monitor whether the market will continue pushing below the current weekly low. So if it breaks it and if it continues to push lower, then that is going to give you the bias, right? And the potential draw on liquidity that the market is going to go towards that monthly zone. Okay, if we start pushing higher and rejecting away from that previous weekly low, maybe we sweep it again and then we continue going higher. Or if we open and we start going higher, then of course that could mean that this weekly zone is holding and we might not pull back into the monthly. All right, so just to make that clear. Then dropping onto the daily, this week was, so we were trading into this daily bearishness here. So I'm not sure if I was bearish on gold last week because I don't really trade gold. But we had 1, 2, 3, 4 candles consolidating in that daily imbalance, which is something that you don't want to see. But what we saw is that every single new candle was actually sweeping the previous candle. So this candle tapped, the next candle swept, the next candle swept. Then we had the indecision on Monday, and then Tuesday finally followed through from that daily imbalance. Now we had this massive drop on Tuesday, but then Wednesday retraced, then Thursday tries to push lower, and then Friday sweeps the low and closes an indecision. So the daily time frame is not telling me nothing, and I don't like it. So again, similar to the rest, we have to be looking for some more signs. And then even if I drop to the quality time frame, it is no, it's not great. We had this bullish, then we had this bearish, 1,000 candles inside this bearishness. Then the news came out, up and down, taking out this low, right, rejecting, and right now we're just stuck nowhere. So unfortunately, gold lovers, we don't have a bias again on gold. And again, as I told you, the main thing to observe right now is from this point of view here on the quality time frame, are we going to start breaking higher with new quality bullish imbalances? Then that could mean we're working with this weekly threshold here, and that is going to help us push potentially higher. Or are we going to start breaking below these lows, making new bearish imbalances? Then that could potentially mean the market is driving us into that monthly bullish imbalance. All right. So those are the potential two things that I see happening. Of course, keep in mind gold is overall again compared to the USD, and I don't expect the USD to be a crazy mover into next week. So just be aware of that. But currently you can see that we don't have a clear bias. So guess what? You just have to wait, which is pretty much one of the hardest parts of trading. USD JPY, extremely interesting developments are happening right now. By the way, this pair is at 30 or 60 years highs. If I actually check USD JPY on FXCM and scroll all the way back, you can see we're retesting a 1990 high right here. And I mean, this one probably doesn't hold a lot of importance, but potentially for a lot of swing and position traders, they're going to be looking for this to be potential resistance area. All right, just to put this into your mind that we are trading at the last high that was made at 1990, which is how many years? 34 years? Yeah, or I hope my math is good. That should be 34 years, right? So right now on the monthly time frame, we very nicely pushed up again what looks like to be all-time highs. On the monthly time frame, we don't have anything to rebalance. So that is not very good. And what we also did is we invalidated a new monthly bullish imbalance just right now. So having nothing to rebalance on the way up and having nothing new created immediately flashes in my mind bearish signs. And as you know, on the DXY, I have been building a slightly bit of a bearish case study here as well. So is the dollar actually going to go down? Let's see. I do believe it actually makes sense. And we can see how a top actually forms. Massive up candle, massive down candle on the weekly. Okay. Now, what the weekly time frame is doing right now, it is pretty much encountering this weekly bullish imbalance. That could be an area to potentially like cause price to react or even reverse. But I mean, just looking at this candle, it's going to be very hard to reverse. If you have a look what is happening beforehand as well, we had this weekly bullish imbalance that tapped and we followed through, but that is already taken. So if the market actually starts going down on UJ, we're going to be having a very clear bias. First targeting this low, and then of course second targeting that low, because there is nothing to stop price from going all the way lower. There are no weekly imbalances, there are no monthly imbalances, so it could be quite nice shorts. On the daily time frame, what we're seeing once again is like the market massively ran up, it pulled back into this daily bullish imbalance, it held up and down and then up and right now down. We don't have anything bearish on the daily yet. We're just tapping into that weekly. So once again, guys, when we are in such a transition area or when the market is about to reverse, it first of all has to encounter all of those areas that are what I call reaction areas or areas of struggle, where it's going to tap and potentially react and mess around a little bit before it actually starts following through. Okay. So now we're tapping into this weekly zone. We don't have anything on the daily, which is not ideal. So we have to be moving on to the quality time frame. And we can see here, we had up, we had down, we had this, of course, we quality bearish imbalance, but on the way up, we were bullish. So again, this is kind of the accumulation phase. Then we massively pop lower. And I had a member actually taking this short right here on the quality bearishness here. And then we follow through very nicely all the way down to this quality low, making new bearish imbalances. And right now we're tapping into this weekly zone. And you can see it's starting to get a little bit slow. So the very last imbalance that we had bearish is this guy. But again, personally, I'm going to be once again giving it time. I'm going to wait to see whether that weekly bullish imbalance is actually going to fail, whether we're going to have something bearish on the daily and on the quality time frame, and then I can start actually trading UJ with a little bit more confidence, because if this actually reverses lower, that could be very interesting. So again, let's see. Currently on UJ, we don't have something clear to be working with. The only area that I can be looking for shorts is that area, but by the time we come into that area, things could potentially change. All right. So that is currently the overall outlook for UJ. It does look a little bit more bearish, which overall kind of corresponds to that slight bit of a bearish outlook that I have for the DXY. So very curious to see if that is going to follow through. Personally, I'm waiting for new areas to be shorting from, new fall imbalances going lower, and to potentially see that weekly bullish imbalance fail. Then that is going to give me the bias pretty much even for the rest of the month. But again, I always keep at the back of my mind that CPI for the US dollar is coming not this week, but next week. And that is going to be the determinant of where the market is going to go. Well, Euro JPY, GBP JPY being JPY pairs, they are absolutely influenced by UJ, and we can already see like last month pushed up, and right now we're starting to retrace very violently. We invalidated a new bullish monthly imbalance, and we don't have anything going higher here on the monthly to potentially stop price. And even on the weekly, we don't have anything on the weekly on EJ to potentially stop price and reverse it higher. So again, right now, my first target, if it's actually going to go lower, my first target is that weekly swing low, then this weekly swing low, then this, and all the way then this. Of course, we're going to be reversing. So on the weekly time frame, the first bearish sign is that we did not have a weekly bullish imbalance after this massive pop the previous week. This week just massively popped down as well. On the daily time frame, it's still like rather tricky. This is very strange price action here at midnight. I think there was looked like a flash crash. I think there was some talks about a flash crash actually happening, which does look like this. All of a sudden we're getting like whoop whoop massive whipsaws like that. So here on the daily we don't have much. We also don't have anything bullish on the daily to potentially stop price. And then dropping onto the volatile time frame, similar to UJ, we had this drop, very small pullback, and then of course on Wednesday 20 o'clock, what happened at that time? We had this massive drop as well, creating this hourly bearish imbalance from where potentially you could have gotten short, and then the market very nicely slided down towards that hourly low. And now again, right now, it's all about waiting for something new to happen. So I'm looking potentially to see again daily imbalances going lower to confirm that it wants to go down, or potentially for the market to once again start following through bearish with new bearish imbalances, and then to potentially start targeting all of these swing lows on the weekly. The only thing we have right now is this, for example, that the market could pull back into, but I would love to see something new. I would love to see the market impulse lower, break structure again, and then get that new threshold, something like this. Break structure lower, imbalance, pull back into imbalance, and then just riding it into the hourly low. So that is essentially the setup that I'm looking for. All right. And then, of course, I know that if that happens, then I could potentially have a lot of long-term targets to be targeting. So let's see. USD, JPY, sorry, they look quite interesting. But again, on EJ and even on UJ and probably on GJ, we need some new narrative. We need something new to happen. We need new zones to happen to then potentially trade from them. GJ could be a big highlight this week with the interest rate decision from Bank of England. On the monthly time frame, we're pushing higher. There are no monthly bullish imbalances to potentially stop price and to cause it to react and to reverse. Weekly time frame, nothing as well. Absolutely nothing. Here it was very, very, very choppy. Massive move up, massive move down. Okay. Daily time frame, here you can see we actually have a tiny daily bearish imbalance that suggests that, for example, right now GJ is the weakest. We don't have that daily bearish on EJ, we don't have that daily bearish on UJ, so GJ looks like to be the weakest. First potential drawn liquidity is going to be that daily swing low. Then the next question is, how are we going to be getting there? Well, are we going to pull back all the way to that daily? Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like that is going to look like a massive move down and then a massive move up. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So I would once again preferably want to see new 4-hourly setup. Like first of all, we had that was pretty tiny here. We had this. Then we have that one that the market again tapped in and reacted. It was the same setup across the JPY board. And right now we're taking this liquidity, but we're not making new zones, right? So pretty much we have this zone here, we have that zone here. The market could definitely pull back into some of these 4-hourly areas, but I would prefer is to make a new one going lower. So again, pretty much two situations for all the JPYs. either to pull back into this volatile zone and then to see, for example, hourly and 50-minute confirmations going lower into this low, or to open and to make a new bearish imbalance lower and then to potentially follow that into our draw on liquidity. So the JPYs look very nicely bearish. They could be a potential highlight for the upcoming week, although we don't have any JPY news. GJ, it has the Bank of England interest rate decision on Thursday, so be careful trading it before that, all right? We also did have some GBP news across the board, like medium impact a little bit, so it could be interesting to be trading GJ. So let me know what you think of the JPYs. Do you think they're going lower? Let me know. Let's have a look at the indices and the overall stock market. So right now, SPX 500, it is tapping inside this monthly bullish zone here. We had last month coming inside very nicely, throwing a little bit of a wick. Right now, we're starting bullish. All right, so we're starting bullish. And as we can see already, on the weekly time frame, we do not have anything bearish to potentially stop price and push it lower. So that is a bullish sign to potentially target that high. And on the daily time frame, well, it's still tricky. Like we tapped into that monthly zone and we started to chop around. We came in to take out this area of struggle. The market reacted, failed, but then it came back down again. And right now we're starting to impulse higher. So in order for me to confirm that SPX, for example, wants to go higher, I would like to see some daily bullish imbalances. Because if you have a look within this overall push lower here, the only thing that we had was that bearish imbalance. Now then next, of course, we have this OB, like again, depending on how you draw the OB, if you draw it from the wick here, then we're tapping it right now. A lot of people draw it from the body, then of course it's gonna be like this. This is why I don't like these things, because they could oftentimes be subjective. So that, for example, is then the next area we could react from, right? And then it's gonna be an easy ride towards that high. If, of course, we're gonna go bullish, which if the dollar goes bearish, well, it does make sense for the stock market to also go bullish. Now, I have avoided trading this for a very long time, simply because of the fact that it's consolidative, it's tapping inside this zone here, it goes up, it goes down, then up and down, and right now back up again. The very recent order flow from what I see is we had this volatile bullish, and from that we're having another volatile bullish. Now, what I would really love to see is for the daily to print a bullish imbalance and to definitely like stay above this line here, because that is a very important swing point. So if we actually close above, which we already did close above, but the next candle could just massively crash lower and validate the new daily imbalance from forming, and then it's not gonna look good for longs again, right? So we have this daily invalidation area. So if we tap this line here, there is not gonna be new daily bullish imbalance, which is a bearish sign, and then that means that this is a sweep here. But if we do form a new daily bullish imbalance on SPX here on Monday, could be interesting, and indices could be actually tradable going into next week. So let's see, seeing some bullishness kicking in. It's not 100% yet, but again, the more we wait, the clearer it will become. So let's consult with the other indices to see what they're telling us and if they actually support that slight bit of a bullish shift. Looking at Nasdaq, we have that same monthly imbalance to potentially for the market to rebalance and then to potentially go higher. To the left also, we have this high that I was literally looking for the market to be retesting a little bit lower so I can buy more stocks. But yet again, I waited too much, and right now the market is starting to retrace back up. I still have some individual stocks, not indices and ETFs to invest in. So definitely gonna do that before the market starts reversing. But here, on the weekly time frame, we actually have this zone to potentially stop price from going higher. But looking at how this weekly candle has closed, it looks like it's disrespecting it, right? It's closing above it. That's not immediately signifying that it's actually breaking it. But if we actually go to explore, when did this actually got tapped? It got tapped on Monday. So the first thing we did this week, is that correct? Yeah, that should be correct, because if I remove this whole week and if I drop to the daily time frame right now, yeah, the first thing we did this week is to tap into that weekly zone and we collected the reaction, right? We collected the reaction already, but we failed to continue going lower. And this is potentially why also SPX made this reaction, because Nasdaq was tapping into that weekly area, taking the overall resistance. And right now, as this resistance is taken, as the market has already taken this area of struggle, what I call it, we're starting to pop higher, breaking above this swing point. So once again, what I want to see is this daily to not get tapped. So that is my daily invalidation level. I want to see a daily bullish imbalance. I want to see the market to stay above this high right here, and I want to potentially start seeing the bullish signs. On the hourly time frame, yeah, I mean, we do have something. We have this hourly imbalance. Did the market actually tap this one? Oh, it pinged it by a pipette. And right now we're expanding higher once again with a new one, which does suggest that order flow right now is starting to form bullish on the hourly time frame. All right, and we're coming from a monthly zone, and you can see since we tapped that monthly zone, we started shifting, and right now we're overall kind of, if you look at the macro picture, we're making higher lows. Not entirely clear, but we are making higher lows. So I am seeing, again, Nasdaq also confirms the fact that there is a little bit of a bullish shift across the indices. Now, is this long term? Are we going to be headed for new all-time highs? Definitely possible. All right, definitely possible. So as for example, the dollar right now starts declining in value, then potentially if you just think about the risk sentiments and where the people are flowing their money to, it could potentially go into the stock market right now because the dollar is going to be getting weaker. So we could be seeing potentially some growth across the indices. So very interesting. Once again, I'm going to be looking for Monday to confirm a new daily bullish imbalance on Nasdaq, and then I'm going to be looking to potentially start trading it higher. And that could potentially mean that I might be trading indices this week rather than EU and GEO, for example, because they are not clear and they're going to get clear next week. And finally, we have US 30, pretty much the same development. Here we have that a little bit of an imbalance. We had one below as well. That would have been very nice, but the market is not going there. We're also invalidating a new monthly bearish imbalance, which is very good, because if that happened here, we would have had a lot of a very big area of struggle. Now, US 30 is, so we had this weekly imbalance. The market tapped it the previous week. It tries to push, but then this week we're invalidating it. So our next drawn liquidity, the next, again, in this case, this weekly bearish imbalance is our area of struggle. This is where the market will be gravitating towards before it potentially throws a reaction. So we have a clear bias, in this case on US 30. We could be targeting that zone because this zone failed. So the market will be looking to rebalance the higher zone. On the daily time frame is exactly what I want to see. For example, for Nasdaq and SPX is that daily bullish imbalance and also that close above that swing point. All right. So already US 30 looks a lot better, and it's giving us that early sign. We have that bullish imbalance. It's giving us that early sign that potentially the other two could also go higher. So we'll pull back into this one, and a continuation will be quite nice. If, of course, there is nothing on the hourly to stop it. And yeah, on the hourly time frame, it doesn't look great. So, of course, we could have a new daily bullish imbalance if the market does not tap into this invalidation area. So, again, it's going to be very key to wait for Monday. Mondays are usually a very bad day to be trading. Usually what the analysis you do on Sunday or Saturday tends to change on Monday and Tuesday. But again, this video is more about, again, showing what is happening, teach you how I analyze the charts on a daily basis and what I look for. And then, of course, you can take this skill and, of course, apply it every single day. All right. So that's US 30. Again, I will be looking longs. I do have a clear area to be targeting, which is in this case that weekly imbalance. So I will be looking for a development that looks something like this. All right, full circle back. Let's recap. Now, the DXY is starting to give us some bearish signs, but as we have seen across the board, it is not 100% clear yet. So, for example, EU and GU are not very clear yet. They are still kind of reacting from that bearish weekly imbalance, although we're starting to see signs of that failing. So I'm starting to see more bearish DXY and more bullish, of course, majors. Now, for example, AUSD for next week is going to be a very interesting pair to be traded. If we do form, for example, either another daily bullish imbalance, or if we get some new forward zones to get created to potentially go long from. So that is my highlight for next week, because we also have AUD news. NZUSD is overall the same as well. All right. But for example, EU and GU, they are slightly bit choppier right now. So they do need some time. And what we have not this week that is incoming, but the week after this week is US CPI, which is, I believe, after the CPI, that is when we're going to be having pretty much 2 clear weeks to be trading. Okay. So overall thinking long-term, knowing when to get actually the focus on and when to step a little bit more aside. Gold is not entirely clear. On gold, what we can simply be doing is waiting for the market to show us whether it wants to react from that current weekly bullish imbalance, or whether it wants to drive us into that monthly. And how do we know this? Is by looking on the quality time frame, and of course where that quality time frame is going to guide us. If you start having bearishness, bearish imbalances, then of course we follow that. If it starts following through higher, then of course we follow that. The JPYs are all looking quite bearish, and they all are like having that nice and clear sentiment. However, we don't have very clear zones to be trading on the JPYs. So I'm simply going to be waiting for new zones, new thresholds, new context areas to be trading from before I go short. And the indices, they're all giving us bullish signs. Now for SPX and NAS, I will be looking for Monday to close to potentially form that daily bullish imbalance to trade from. Meanwhile, on US 30, we already have it. So we can already be looking to long this one, all right? But of course, ensure that you're trading at times of volatility. Of course, New York session and preferably after Monday, because Monday is going to be very key to wait and see what is going to happen, whether we're going to form a new daily bullish imbalance to then trade from. So my highlight for next week is going to be Aussie dollar. Potentially, no, JPYs, I'm not going to trade, and indices. So I'm going to be looking, of course, at EU and G on the intraday basis, because those are the top two that I trade. But being aware that this week does not have a lot of USD news and it could be slightly bit choppy, I might transition to indices very briefly, right? Or even looking at AU, because the Aussie dollar has an interest rate decision this week together with GU, right? So I could be looking at those two, of course, when the time is right. So Fanatics, let me know how you performed this week. Let me know what is your favorite setup going into next week. Let me know how you actually traded this week and if you managed to get some trades. Trade safe and be aware of all the news that are incoming into next week as well. I mean, US CPI, not this week, the next week. And then, of course, we're going to have 2 incredible trading weeks, which is going to be all about full focus. So that's from me. Looking forward to hearing from you in the comments, and I'm going to talk to you on Wednesday.